Hello, and welcome to the sky this month. This is going to be a short talk about what you can see in the sky that's interesting and how to see it, and then I'll do a little bit at the end about photography in the city and how you get around issues like light pollution. So I am Oscar. I am the Equipment and Observations Officer for AstroSoc, which basically means I'm in charge of all the telescopes and running observation sessions when the sky isn't cloudy. Um, and yeah, I've been asked to give this talk. It's sort of a thing my predecessors have done as well. So yeah, we'll get into it. So quite lucky tonight is a full moon. Whether it's cloudy or not is to be seen, but the moon is a really good target all year round with brilliant views for both telescope and binoculars, and you can see it both day and night. In fact, during the day, some of the contrast you get means some of the craters are even easier to see. So it cycles between new and full. When it's a new moon, it's really good because you lose that source of light in the sky. So it's really good to see galaxies and nebulae and some of the dimmer objects. And then when it's full, you can see the full moon and you can see all the seas, and it's a really pretty object to observe. The other thing that's around at the moment all the time are the planets. We've got Jupiter, Saturn, and Venus are all visible. So Venus is very low in the sky. You've got to be out sort of just before sunset to see it. And then as the sun comes down, you look towards where the sun is sitting, and you should see a bright dot in the sky. Jupiter and Saturn are quite close together. I'll show you in a second how you can find them. And they are two very bright dots in the sky, again towards sort of the southwest. You can get really good views with both telescope and binoculars. You can see some of the moons around Jupiter. You can see the rings of Saturn, even with just a half-decent pair of binoculars. So I'd really recommend, if you can get out one evening when it's clear, try and find the planets, have a look. You will not be disappointed. So here you go. Towards the south, you can see both Jupiter and Saturn. Basically, all the stars you can see on there are quite dim. So if you look to the south, you look a little bit up from the horizon, they should both be really obvious. And these slides will be up on the Astro in the City website, so that you can reference this later if you so wish. Now, going into the months, we're in October at the moment. You've got the Orionid meteor shower, which is a really good one. You've got basically a meteor every about 4 minutes, peaking on the 21st. So you want to get out as soon as you can to see that. And that's in the Orion constellation, which is currently visible after 10 p.m. You also got Mercury at greatest elongation. So Mercury is very small, very close to the sun. So it's normally quite hard to see because, you know, it's always around the sun and the sun is bright, so you can't see it. But Mercury at greatest elongation means it's currently, or it's heading up to its furthest point. And that's going to be on the 25th, so that's in just a few days as well. So you want to be up early in the morning, about 6:30, if you want to see it, just when it gets above the horizon, but the sun hasn't fully come up yet. And then we got a moon, and that's the full moon today. In November, we've got, again, some interesting events. Asteroid 67P is going to be its brightest. This is quite a significant, it's actually a comet, it's quite significant, because in 2016, a lander launched by the ESA, the European Space Agency, touched down on the surface, and that was the first time a lander touched down on the surface of an asteroid. It's unfortunately not visible to the naked eye, but it's the brightest comet for a while, and can be located with a large telescope if you have that. I mean, it's not something you're likely to see, but it's interesting that it's there. And it's interesting that it still has this lander on it from 2016. You also have the Moon and Venus conjunction. So the Moon is going to cover the planet on the 8th of November. And sort of the two will share the same coordinates in the sky for the night. And then we got another meteor shower. This is the Leonid meteor shower. So it's in the Leo constellation. And this is, again, quite a good one. You've got meteors observable for every 4 minutes. So if you're outside for like a good 15 minutes, you should see a number of meteors, and that is in the Leo constellation. And the peak it's running. That will be for a good few weeks, but the peak of it will be on the 17th if you want to get out for that time. We also have a new moon and a full moon in November. So if you want to be looking at the sort of deeper sky stuff that's a bit fainter, you want the new moon, and the full moon if you want to look at the moon. Then December, we have a new moon on the 4th and a full moon on the 19th. Got the winter solstice, which is the longest day of the year, or longest night of the year even. So you can, if you're an astronomer, this is great. If you're anyone else, it isn't so much great. But it does mean you can be out and looking at the stars for several hours before even dinner time. Lots of people don't like it. I quite like it. And then there's a total solar eclipse. Unfortunately, it's in Antarctica. So if you fancy a last-minute flight, then that's definitely one to look out for. So then I just wanted to talk a little bit about photography. So some of the previous equipment officers have talked in the past about another subject that's interesting. And one of the things I do in my spare time is astrophotography, which means I use my telescope and my camera and I take pictures of space. And here are some of the pictures I've taken. So you've got the Horsehead Nebula on the left, which is in the Orion constellation. You've got the North American Nebula, which is in the Cygnus constellation, and you've got the Andromeda Galaxy. And one of the issues with photography is that you have to contend with a lot of factors, and one of those is light pollution. Now, we're in Birmingham at the moment. Not all of you may be from Birmingham, but no matter where you are, light pollution is going to be an issue, even if you're in a small town. And Birmingham, this is a particular issue. So we need to have ways to get around that. And the way we do that is with filters. So you have what are called narrowband filters. And these let in only certain wavelengths of light. So rather than taking the entire spectrum, you have a very small narrow band, hence the name, which correspond to specific emissions from specific atoms. So these are the three common ones you can see. You've got hydrogen alpha, sulfur 2, and oxygen 3. So you have, these are the three standard filters. And then you have these, and you have your camera, and then it only lets in this very narrow band of light, which then excludes most of the light pollution. Which means rather than having a very bright washed out image, you get quite a nice clear cut image. And that's how you do photography, even when you have light pollution in a big city. So thank you very much for listening. Hope you have a great evening and enjoy the next talk.